sudden that kickstarts everything. So for me, what the Bucks are doing or not doing with Giannis is going to determine a lot of what happens this offseason. But also, I think there's going to be so much movement that the Giannis thing doesn't necessarily freeze everything. Because the Rockets would be in play for sure, right?
Yep. You would think.
The Spurs would theoretically be in play. But also, the Spurs and Rockets might go, hey, we kind of like what we're doing here. We don't want to... They want everything, to be honest, which makes sense. And we don't want to uproot our team.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if Giannis is getting traded, it's going to be one of those deals that, like, it doesn't look right in the beginning and it doesn't look right 5 years down the road. Like, you're just going to have such a difficult time getting value. When I look at the difference, though, between Giannis and Kevin Durant, you're basically looking at, like, an almost 37-year-old in Durant versus a 30-year-old in Giannis. And to be honest with you, I think at this point Durant is just nowhere near the quality of player that Antetokounmpo is.
Right.
And so you're basically, I think one of them is going to cost you, because of the contract, because he's only under contract for 1 year, it might cost you 1 or 2 first-round picks and a bunch of salary to match. And that's where you have to really, again, if you're San Antonio, like you're buying a 1-year rental, and you're going to have to give up Devin Vassell. You're going to have to give up Keldon Johnson. You're going to have to give up Harrison Barnes.
Sure.
You're going to have to gut all of your depth in order to make that move. And who even knows if he wants to stay there long term? I mean, I would assume once you got there, he'd sign a 2-year extension. Or something.
And what's long term? That's 2 years, and he's not ascending.
No, he's going to be 37, and sure, I think it would work. But
work to what extent?
Yeah, that and if you're going to extend him, and then all of a sudden Wembanyama's contract's coming up, you're going to have to think long and hard about what you're going to do with De'Aaron Fox, whether you're going to get De'Aaron Fox.
To do that.
Well, I think you have to, especially when you land the number 2 pick. The right move for the Spurs is probably to not extend De'Aaron Fox and to not trade for Kevin Durant, and to build with the number 2 pick in the draft and make savvy moves to improve your roster.
Sure.
And then, use some draft capital to improve your roster, but look at 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah.
That's probably the best bet for the San Antonio Spurs. It's not to go out and get a Kevin Durant and try to win something this year, because I don't even know if you're going to be able to piece something together.
Yeah, you could trade for Kevin Durant and maybe make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is that, if that's what they want to do, just to get back there, like, okay. But I think teams are going to look at it because copycat leagues, right? I think teams are going to look at Indiana, and they're going to look at Oklahoma City, and they're going to go, man, these teams built cores and then just kind of added pieces around it. If you're the Rockets, because the Bucks are going to start with Amen Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Amen Thompson and a bunch of other stuff. Like, ugh.
I mean, if you're Houston and you can get Antetokounmpo's, again, he's 30, and you're going to give up, let's say you can avoid giving up Amen Thompson. Let's say you're giving up Jabari, you're giving up Jalen Green, and you're giving up, Whitmore, one other big time up and coming. Reed Shepherd. Okay, so we got Reed Shepherd, and then what if you had to give up like Tari Eason as well? So you're giving up like 4 young players and 3 first-round picks for Giannis?
Man, it's just, and this is where the offseason is going to be interesting, is if I'm the Rockets and I'm ready to give up those assets, I think you can break those assets into 4 other trades and probably improve your team more than giving them up for 1 player.
No, I'm with you.
Fully understanding, by the way, that Giannis is a top 15 player of all time, or wherever you want to put him. Yeah. He's unbelievable. He's an perennial MVP candidate.
And a top 3 player still now.
Yes.
I just think that you're always going to have the question of, is he going to want to stay wherever he's going? And he's under contract for 3 more years. He has a player option at $66.8 million for the 27-28 season. Like, if again, we just go Kings wise, like, I think getting a bunch of young prospects, like from Houston, if they're going to open up and say, hey, let's do this.
Sure.
And everything is predicated around Jalen Green. You have to, because Jalen Green is a guy who's making 30, and you got to get up to $50 million just to make this thing work, dollars and cents wise.
Oof.
So you're going to have to come up with a bunch of players who are making 10, 12 million bucks in order to get up, at least 3 or 4 players to get up to that 50 million mark.
Yeah.
And again, if I were, do you like that deal, or would you rather start over with your own draft picks? With draft picks that you select the players, and that's where, again, I don't think the Kings would do this, but maybe they would. But if you're the Kings and you can offer up Zach LaVine and Devin Carter to match salaries, and give up 5 first-round picks, including 3 of your own unprotected and the 2 unprotected, one from San Antonio, one from Minnesota. 5 first-round picks, I still don't think that's enough. I don't. Because, again, you're going to have to match salary, but I'm not sure that I would take the Houston deal, and I'm not sure I would take the Kings deal.
Yeah.
But those are like paths that you could go down. And I think, again, Giannis probably wouldn't want to be in Sacramento. And it would be tough to build a team quickly.
But I just if the Bucks are steadfast in, we're going to gut the team that we trade Giannis to. I would imagine if you're a GM and you're watching the finals, and frankly, if you watched Minnesota go to the conference finals back-to-back years, you're probably going, man, I don't want to do that. I don't think that's the best path to a championship, gutting this young roster we have. So let's say Giannis doesn't move. There's still LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
There are still so many huge names. And then you got Lauri Markkanen's availability to be traded now.
Yep.
John Collins has anyone been on the trading block more often than John Collins?
No, especially for someone who only got traded once. No.
John Collins, Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
There are, and all of these players, none of, I get that none of them are the quality of Giannis, but they're all really good players. The Kings would love to have a couple of those guys.
Oh yeah.
You would kill to have a couple of those guys.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. If I'm the Kings, I'm trying to get involved in many of these trades, because it does feel like something big is going to happen. And you can be a third team, you can be, a fourth team, or you can be a primary team.
Yeah.
And try to get involved. And this is where, because of the quality of players and the size of those contracts, and the fact that you have a guy like it is possible that Zach LaVine could get involved in one of these, that the Kings could get involved using Zach LaVine. And that's because he makes like 47 million and 49 million over the next 2 years. Right. But there are just not a lot of players out there with contracts that are expiring like this.
Yeah.
And for a team who's giving up, like, say, 3 years of Giannis, or 4 years of another player that's around that type of that money, just that money alone could save them tens of millions of dollars in luxury tax or apron money. So, like, again, I think it is possible that where normally I would say Zach LaVine's contract is not going to be in play, hey, if the Kings need to do whatever it takes to get better, like, straight up.
That's bottom line. And that's where I wonder, because and the Kings angle on this is, okay, they'd be involved with these players, and it's less about specific players they'd be involved with for me, though, and more, okay, so you have a new GM in Scott Perry.
Yep.
Who is having conversations with everyone in the building, getting on the same page with everyone, and we're all that new front office is going to have to hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're in a spot where you're like, okay, well, we can slow play this, we're going to see how it goes, we're still getting to know some guys, we're still piecing together who's part of the core and who's not, and now all of a sudden all these trades are happening, you're going to be on the outside looking in. And now all of a sudden your big offseason move is Tyus Jones.
Oh, yeah.
That's so hopefully Scott Perry, who is plugged in around the league, that's one of the things we always say, Scott Perry likes everybody, or excuse me, Scott Perry is friends with everybody. He's
knows everyone.
Yep. Hopefully he's got a beat on this and is already having those conversations with other teams or with other agents, because that's my biggest fear here.
Well, I can tell you that right now they've already had multiple conversations around the league with multiple teams. Like, they are not sitting around waiting. They are fielding calls daily and maybe even at this point hourly because we're getting close.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are fielding calls nonstop. I know that for a fact. And whether that means that some of their players are being sought after, or whether they're going and hitting up other teams and trying to work something.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep warning everybody. Like, do not be surprised if some of your favorite Kings are no longer here in Sacramento at the end of this. This could be a bloodbath for Kings fans where they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened." I can't,
Like,
you know.
outside of DeRozan, Domas, and
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you could get
Levine.
to a point where like they can't trade Levine, but they can trade Malik Monk. They can't trade DeMar DeRozan's contract, but like so many teams have called about Keegan Murray, and you got to start thinking about that. Like if you can't improve your team, no matter what, that's the goal. Like you got to find ways to improve the team.
Yep.
You're not good enough. Your talent, whatever happened last year, like I think the final we predicted that team would win more like 50, 52 games.
Mm-hmm.
When it was all said and done, I think they were lucky to win 40. Like they
Yeah.
scrape by and especially when you do the changeover at midseason and dump Fox, like this team is in disarray. And it's going to take a strong-willed person to come in and make very, very difficult and uncomfortable decisions
Mm-hmm.
that will have long-lasting ripple effects with this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hoping, fingers crossed, that they get those things right.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day, that's all you can hope for is that, whatever Scott Perry does here, that he gets it right. But do not think that they're just sitting around waiting for draft night to see if they might be able to get back into the first round. They might do that. They could get back into the first round.
Sure.
But I also think that they could trade all kinds of players on draft night or all kinds of players on July 1st and move themselves in a position to either be a free agent player or be in a position to like have completely different needs on July 1st than they had today.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh my gosh, like how are they going to fill this, and this position? Like you trade Domantas Sabonis, you need another starting center. I don't, Jonas Valanciunas, perfectly nice guy.
If you want to be competitive, yeah.
But I'm not counting on Jonas Valanciunas to go out there and play 35 minutes a night.
Nope.
You trade DeMar DeRozan, all of a sudden you need another small
lot
forward.
Of offense, yep.
You need another forward. You need another scorer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's where I think everyone has to kind of like understand that this is when you pull out one piece of the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
like how does that impact the other pieces? And can you build this thing the right way, like very quickly? I'm not sure that they can, but I would be very surprised if they weren't movers and shakers.
Well then, you have a trade idea.
I do.
We'll get to that next. The biggest thing for me is just pick a path. If that means they decide Sabonis, Keegan, and Keon and Monk are untouchable and they're going to build around them, okay, just commit to that. Mm-hmm. Not what I would do, but if that's what they do, if it's dump everything or, man, they got a Godfather offer for Keegan and he's gone, or Keon or Monk and they're gone, just commit to it. That's the biggest thing for me. So a tough offseason ahead, or I shouldn't say tough, a busy offseason ahead with a lot of tough decisions.
Yep.
Is where we're headed. But you've got a trade idea.